Hello all, in this video we'll talk about remotes in Git. So what is mean by a remote in Git? So let us see the diagram of the any distributed version control system or Git. So you will basically have a centralized server or a remote server where the code would be hosted and you will download the changes to your local repository and then you will like after downloading the changes to your local repository you will check out the changes to your working directory and then work here. Okay, this is how you usually work. Now if you have seen my previous videos, what I have done is I did not clone from any centralized server. I have initialized a fresh repository on my local, and then what I have done, I have made changes to my working directory and then I have pushed my changes to the local repository. But this process doesn't end here. In any real world software project, what happens is you would have multiple developers working on a team, and then each developer keeps pushing changes to the repository and other developer pull those changes. Let's say I am working on a critical issue in a project. What I'll do is I'll make changes on my local, I'll test on my local, and then I push changes to my central server. Now other developer, what they do is they will download the changes or they'll pull the changes to their local repository. Then only they will work on that, because if they don't download it, their code will not be up to date with the centralized server and it might end up in the issues. So whenever whenever you want to push or pull changes to your local repository, you have to make a connection to your remote server. You need not set up a brand new server, but you just need to make a connection, or you have to specify the URL of the centralized server, so that whenever you use this git fetch command or git push or git pull commands, automatically it will talk to this URL. So for that, first you have to set up the remote in your Git. Now let me try cloning a central repository. So this is the parking lot repository that is hosted on the GitHub. So basically this parking lot is this one, central server. Now I have to download those changes onto my local repository or onto my local database. For that, what I'll do is, so this is my LLD diagram or LLD folder. Now I'm cloning my changes, parking lot changes onto my local. So whenever I clone it, what it does is it will make a connection to the central server. It will make a connection to the central server and then it will download the changes to my local server, and it also set my remote server as this. Now let's see. Here I have downloaded the changes, right? Now let me run this ls. When you run ls, you have this LLD parking lot downloaded. Now to view what is the remote server that is configured, you can type git remote. Okay. So let me go to LLD parking lot. When I type git remote, what it will do is it had shown me origin. So you might get confused, what is origin here? Now what had happened is, to this particular repository or folder LLD parking lot, it had cloned the changes. So this is the connection URL. Ideally, whenever I type git remote, it should show me this connection URL. Why is it showing this origin? Now, this is just a shorthand notation. Now, every time whenever I have to fetch or pull and push the changes, I can't give this complete URL, right? For that, Git allows you to specify the shorthand notation for each and every remote. That's why by default, whenever you clone any repository, the shorthand notation that is given to this URLs are origin. So if I want to see the URL that is configured for this origin, I can specify git remote -v. So when I specify git remote -v, you can see, right, this is just a shorthand notation. And what is the URL that is configured for this origin? This is the URL. You can see the same here. Now basically you do two operations, right? One is fetch and one is push. Pull the changes and then push the changes. So for fetch operation and the for push operation, it has set this connection parameters. Okay. Now this is done. So whenever you do git clone, automatically your remote server URLs are set up automatically. Now when I want to push the changes, I need not use this complete URL. I can just use origin because it is a shorthand notation. Now in a real world scenario, there can be multiple centralized servers or multiple remotes that can be configured for a repository. Let me explain with an example. Now let us say that you have another remote related to authentication server, another remote server related to authentication logic, and this is related to the business logic. Now, whenever I am executing something on my local, first to execute the business logic, only the authenticated user should execute that. You would have those checks that are configured, but you have separated this authentication logic in a separate repository. Now, whenever you are doing something on your local, you can pull the changes of authentication and then you can pull the changes of business logic as well. So that first you will execute this authentication logic, and if your user is authenticated, then only he or she will be able to execute this business logic. So in this kind of scenario, you can have multiple remotes that can be configured for your database. So git clone, anyway, it automatically sets it, and there is another way of adding a remote server in your git local. So that is using the git remote command, git remote add command. So let us consider this is my personal GitHub repository, git version control. What I'll do is I will add git remote. I'll add my personal GitHub as one of my remote repository. Git remote add, and then you have to specify shorthand notation. Here this is origin, right? Now what I'll do is I'll specify I'll specify version control is my shorthand notation, and I'll specify the URL here. So this is another way of adding git remote. So next time if you want to pull changes of the version control, you can just use this shorthand notation. Now let me run git remote. When I run git remote, initially you had seen only origin as your remote. Now you can see two remote. One is origin and the other one is the version control. Let us see the URLs that are configured. Git remote -v if you do. One origin we have already seen, and the second one is for version control. This is the URL I have specified here. Okay, so this like this way you can configure multiple remotes for your repository. Okay, now we are done with showing the remotes, and then we have added the remote also. Now let us fetch the changes. So what is mean by a fetch command? So there are two ways using which you can download the changes from your centralized repository. So now what I have done is, using the git clone, I have downloaded the complete snapshot or complete database of the remote server to my local database. That is done. So post that, another developer, what he has done is he has pushed changes to the centralized server. So to download changes, either I can use git fetch command or I can use git pull command. So what is the difference between git fetch and git pull commands? So the difference is, git fetch, it just downloads the changes from the remote repository to your local database. It will not change, like merge the changes to your working directory. So when you just download the changes, those are present in the database. You can't see in your working directory. Or you can't, because here if I do ls, I can see these changes. Let's say another developer has added another file called maybe problem statement 1.md. When you do fetch, right, those changes would be present in your local database. But after doing fetch, if I run ls, you can't see the file here because those changes are not merged to your working directory. So git fetch is just used to download the changes, whereas git pull, it will download the changes and then it will merge those changes to the working directory. Git pull is the combination of git fetch command and then git merge command. Git fetch is for downloading here and git merge is for merging the changes from the local repository to the working directory. Okay, you got it, right? The difference between git pull and git fetch. So now, and one more thing is, what git fetch and git pull does is, so initially I have cloned the repository. When I have cloned, let's say time t1, I have cloned it. So all the changes got downloaded to my repository. Now at time t2, another developer had pushed the changes to the central server. Now when I do fetch, right, only the changes that were pushed to this server after t1. Okay, because till t1 you have changes on your local repository, you need not download those changes again. So only the changes that were pushed to this repository after t1 will be downloaded using git fetch and git pull commands. Now let me run git fetch here. So git fetch, and what is the shorthand notation that was given for parking lot? Origin. Git fetch origin. When I do this, all the changes will be downloaded. Okay, now I can use git pull as well, because when you like, I can here git fetch I have used, right? After that I can use git merge origin master. So if I use this one, right, so git merge, what it does is it will change, like it will merge the changes onto your working directory. Instead of using these two commands, git fetch origin and git merge, what you can do is you can directly specify git pull origin. So when you do git pull origin, what it does is it will fetch and it will merge it. So here what I have done is I have specified the remote. Okay. So here in few cases what happens is, in our case we have configured two remotes, right? One is origin and the other one is my personal repository called version control. Now in few of the repositories you don't have two remotes that are set up, you just have a single remote. So in that case it need not, like you need not give this one as well, because it works fine, because since there is only a single origin, single remote that is configured, when you do git fetch it fetches from that remote. When you have multiple remotes configured, then only you have to specify from which remote I have to download or I have to push the changes. Okay, now let's say I have made some change or I have committed something, then I can use this git push origin, and then I can specify the branch name as well. So using this git push origin master, I don't have any commits, it will obviously, throw either like for pushing it, you should have this permission as well, write permission, because for downloading, for reading, you just need to have a read permission, but for pushing the changes you should have the write permission. Here I don't have write permission to this repository, that's why I can't push the changes. But ideally if you have the write permission, you can push your changes to your remote repository. Okay, and you can talk about the, here if you see we are done with the git pull. Now let's see, if you, what you can do is git push and then you can specify remote and then branch. Okay, git push remote and the branch. I'll talk about the tracking branches as well. So what happens here is, now initially I have cloned it. Let me run git branch. So this is master, right? So what happens whenever you clone it, I'll write and show here. On the centralized server you have master branch, right? So when you clone the repository, what happens is you will have origin master branch, and then you will have, like this is an origin master, and then you have master branch as well. Okay, so whenever you clone or whenever you fetch changes, you will have two branches that are present on your local repository, origin master and then this master is the local branch that is created by clone automatically, and then whenever you make changes, right, you make changes to this master branch. What is this origin master? So origin master is a pointer to the centralized server. So what it means is, initially I have cloned it. So all those changes that are present on in the master branch on the centralized server, those will be present here. And though using those changes, you have created a local master branch. Okay, so those both changes remain same. Now I am working in my local and I have added few changes to my master branch. So here I can see the changes only in this master branch. In this origin master, I don't see changes because this is pointed to the centralized repository. Now, I did not push my changes to the server, right? Then how can you see the changes in this origin master? Origin master is pointing to this one. You can't see the changes. Now, next time when I make a connection and then when I push the changes to the centralized server, then these changes whatever I have done will appear in the origin master. So basically you call this as a tracking branch. So on local you have some branch, and this corresponding to this local master branch you have origin master branch. Basically you have a tracking branch that is present. You call that as a tracking branch. So in the coming videos, we'll talk about Git branching. Then you will understand in detail about this. Okay, I'm just explaining you what is meant by a tracking branch. Tracking branch is nothing but you will have a local branch corresponding to the branch on the master on the remote. Okay. Now we are done with, we have seen how to push the changes also, right? Now let us see the for git push. What we have done, git push, we have specified the origin and we have specified the master. Now in few cases, let's say you have a single remote, okay, and you are on this master branch, then you need not specify this. You, if you just specify git push, right, then it will work. Because if you have, like here I don't have permission, but if you try on your local it will definitely work. Here, since I have multiple remotes, I am specifying origin every time, otherwise it's not required as well. And one more thing is, if you, all these branches are already tracked, whenever you do git clone, right, what it does is it will pull all the branches from the like centralized server, and for each branch it will create a local branch as well. So automatically it creates this tracking branches. All the branches are tracked. So if all the branches are tracked, then you need not specify this as well. So like if I do git push, what it does is, if I just have origin remote, not this version control remote, this git push is equivalent to this command, because you just have a single origin. And one more thing is, you need not specify the branch name as well. If I am making changes to my local master branch, then automatically what is the correspondent tracking branch of the local master, origin master. So automatically it will push changes to the origin master branch. So you need not specify that. So it's just that if you have multiple repos, then you have to specifically specify that. Okay, now let us see detail about a remote. Git remote show. What I'll do is origin. So if you see, if you want to view more details about a specific remote, you can type this git remote show origin. So the fetch URL is this, and push URL is this, and head branch. I'll talk about head branch in detail in the branching concept. And what is the remote branch? Master is tracked, and local branch that is configured for the git pull is master merges with remote master. So locally you have master branch that will get merged with the remote master, and local reference configured for git push is master branch. Okay, you can see these details using git remote show. And sometimes now I have given this origin as a shorthand notation for parking lot. I don't think it makes sense for the parking lot, because if I give parking lot as my shorthand notation, then I'll understand better instead of origin. So in that case I can rename it git remote rename origin to parking lot. So origin is the older name and the parking lot is the new name. I can do that. So renaming remote references. So when you rename it, right, I was specifying origin master as the branch, the master, like the tracking branch to this local master, right? In that case, even this would get changed. Instead of origin, you would have parking lot. So that's why it is showing it. It did not just show the renaming remote name. It showed renaming remote references, because you have the branches, tracking branches also. That's why it should rename the tracking branches as well. Let me run git remote now. When I run git remote, initially you used to see parking lot. Now You can see the initially you used to see origin, now you can see this as a parking lot. Okay, this way you can rename remotes also, you can remove remotes as well. Now till now what I have done, I have worked only using this parking lot remote. I don't need this version control remote. In that case you can remove that, git remote remove version control. Now after removing it, if I type git remote, it just shows you the parking lot. Okay. This is how you can configure a remote server for your local repository, so that you can push pull changes, and you can specify the tracking branches also. And whenever you specify a tracking branch, you can pull changes only from that specific branch. Okay. But we will talk more about the branching and the tracking branches in the coming video.